Okay, so this is my next race in the Trackday Trophy at Rockingham. Great result here. We came first in qualifying and first in the overall race result. Really fantastic. Overjoyed with the weekend and how it went. So this is obviously the lead into the Trackday footage, and a couple of people I've spoken to asked for a bit more context and could I do some narration over the top of it to explain what's going on. So unfortunately you're going to have to listen to my voice throughout the footage, but maybe that'll give you a bit more insight as to what happened. What I should say is that we did also get a 30-second penalty which we challenged at the end. So whilst I've put the race result down as 9th, we were penalised down to 11th, but more on that later. Anyway, the race is about to start, so let's see what happens. Really hot day, sort of 22 degrees, so leaving the driver's door open. There goes the siren, so the lights will be going out shortly. Let's see how we get on off the line. We've got a Clio 182 to our left and a Mondeo ST220 to our right. Behind us are all the Class D competitors, and it's all Class C in front of us, which are the faster cars. We are off. We've made 2 places up off the start. We're just coming past on the Mini Cooper here. That's 3 places up. Fantastic start. We've got pulled at Ultimate, lost 4 places. Really happy with how this has gone so far. We've got a nice bit of space coming down the first corner. There goes James on the inside. Nice break in. No one's on the inside. Turn in, and we're around the first corner. That's the dangerous part over. Okay, so just to explain what's happened now, all the cars ahead of us now are in Class C, which is the higher class and the faster cars, so we're in a great position. We made a few places up off the line. I think we're currently sat at about 11th place, so 3 places up. Behind us we've got the Class D competitors. In my rear view mirror I can see Jim Hart in the MX-5, also in Class D. My objective here is to pull away, put a bit of a gap between me and Jim, and not let him close me in because I want to secure this position. That's first lap, so the tyres are cold on the car. With the temperatures running as high as they were on the day, you really need to pump in a really few quick hot laps right at the start and put a bit of a gap in, because as the temperature gets into the car, the tyres will just go off and it's going to become more difficult to extract time from it. But this first lap, something clean, nothing too dangerous. Let's not get carried away. Just bring it round, and we'll secure the position as we start the next lap with some heat in a bit. As we hit the straight here, you'll notice the Class C cars will start to pull away. So they run roughly 45 to 65 brake horsepower, which is about 40% more horsepower than the compact produces. So down the straight they've got a bit of advantage, and out of the corner you'll find they pull away a little bit, but now the aim of the game is to track them down under braking and try and outperform them through the corners. 120 miles an hour here into the first chicane, down into the 3rd gear, back on the gas, lots of throttle, get the back end come round a bit by itself using the rear end to steer, and as you can see we've closed the cars up in front a little bit, which is a good result. You just see in front, that's James in car number 77, blue Clio. He's our target. Now, at this point, Jim's starting to fall back a little bit. I can see we're pulling away from him, which is nice. We need less time to concentrate and try and defend our position. We can focus in on putting clean laps, clean lines, and trying to close down James in front. What we also notice is that the other Class C cars, which have fallen in behind Jim, are also starting to mix up with him a little bit. Now, any 2 cars battle on track at any one time will compromise their track position and they'll generally run slower. So this is good news for me. The cars behind are fighting each other, they're running slower, I'm in clean space, I can put in the quickest laps that I can. And this second lap we're seeing here now is a 1:49.5, which is 2/10 off my quickest lap round Rockingham overall on the weekend. So a nice lap. You see coming out of the second lap here now we're considerably closer to James, so good lap. And again down the straight he just opens it up a little bit and starts to pull away, making an extra horsepower show. Under braking, look how he closed him up. Fantastic. We went from 10 car lengths to 3 car lengths. So now I'm quite excited. Now I think we're in this race, we're mixing it with Class C's and a Class D car. Got to be a good result. James has run wide there, his lines aren't as consistent as they could be, so there's definitely going to be an opportunity here. What I'm trying to do is get the cars as close to the back of James as possible. Put yourself in the rear view mirror of the driver, hopefully you put a bit of pressure on him, maybe he'll make a mistake and let you through. By this point Jim has now fallen away, I'm over a corner ahead of him and if I recall correctly I think he'd have been passed by the next Class C car, so Class D is looking pretty good at the moment. Into the hairpin here, we're only 2 car lengths behind James, so we're holding him nice and steady, which is really encouraging. Closer on James this time, which means under braking we're going to have an opportunity here. Back on the throttle earlier, better line, we're nice behind him, quick on the throttle. Fortunately that extra power just keeps him ahead there. Something that's important to know about this is that because the BMW is rear wheel drive, we've learned to use the throttle to steer the car from the back end. So what we're doing, we're applying extra throttle through the hairpins and corners like this to move the back end round of its own accord. Now as the race progresses you'll see the tyres start to get hotter and they start to lose their performance. We'll have to apply corrective lock to the other side of the corner as we go through to make up for when the car starts to move across a bit further than we wanted it to. Again, we're holding James now, we're a couple of laps in, consistently behind him a couple of cars, well clear of Class D. As we're going past the start finish straight, checking to the left, clearing our pit board, we can see at this point we're now 4 seconds ahead of the next car. And again you see through the chicane we close James considerably, he's not giving those apexes any neither. We're up alongside him, in a good position for a pass. Unfortunately, we just don't have the power, and he flexes that engine again and he pulls away. We're much closer now. So what we're going to do, we're going to drag him behind him. He's going to give us a bit of a drag. So we'll let us through. We carry an extra 8 mile an hour down the straight, and this is it. Now we're in position. Pull out, brake, up the inside. Fantastic. Aim for the apex of the corner, back on the throttle early, and we're away. Got a good enough acceleration out of that corner that James is now far enough back we don't have to cover the inside line for the next corner. So we're now up into 10th place. A little bit of corrective steer there. Now we just want to put in a nice clean lap here. really exacerbate the advantage that we've got. We've just got the place, that's not anything silly to lose in. We just want to follow that round and really try and pull away from James and make sure he's not going to be challenging us all over the back of us over the next few corners. Ahead in the distance we've got the Class C cars Honda Civic Type R. That's running roughly 200 brake horsepower against the BMW's 125. Opposite lot there, back end's just come around a little bit. Again, trying to be more careful with the throttle in the race than we were in practice or in qualifying, because we've got to make these tyres last 45 minutes without really going off the cliff performance wise. And you know, if we start to eat in too much now and lean at the back end a little bit too much, then we'll find towards the back end of the race the car becomes more difficult to handle. So again, left, the pit board. Find out what the guys are saying. So as you come through this fast left hand, the car just wants to push over to the right. It's about 1.5 G on the right hand side. Run it out to the barrier, 120, harden the brakes with 100 metres to go, down to third, turn it in, aim for the apex, back on the throttle, get the back end to come round, little dab of corrective, full on the power, back down to the floor. Great feeling. Aim for those bollards that are sticking up high. I love driving these bollards. Basically, you want to aim to hit that. If you aim to hit it, you'll probably want a few inches wide, and the car will just come around the outside of it. But it's a lovely visual marker that you can point the front end of the car nice and early. Fantastic time. We're 11 minutes into the race. We've done a fair few laps. The car's fully up to temperature. We've been pumping some good times. We're getting into the 149s and the 150s here. Getting to the back end of the car, just breaking loose a little bit. That's a 70-mile-an-hour left-hander, so we're just balancing on the throttle there, correcting as we go through. Solid position now. James is a few seconds behind us. He's now getting trolled by another Class C car, but we're just keeping an eye on that in our rear view mirrors and trying to track down this Civic as best we can. As you can see, I love the curves through this chicane here. I like getting nice and high in a touring car style. It's a lot of fun when you come through there clean. So at this point we're up to an 8-second gap now against the next Class D car. So I'm comfortably pulling away with about a second lap in between us and the next guy. Ideally we'd like to be a bit further in the field, but you know, we're going in the right direction. Half of these corners is I'm putting the throttle in a little bit harder. Like there we go. Back end's just drifted a bit too much. Just trying to get as much traction down as we can and get the rear end to move around slightly without having to apply corrective lock. But it's a lot of fun to drive the car and balancing on the throttle, and you can just feel it through the seat, which holds you tightly. You can tell when the car's coming around. It just helps it pivot on its centre axis more once you get around the corner cleanly. Get into the race though, we get a little bit less adventurous with the throttle as we try and protect the tyres a little bit. We don't want to make any silly mistakes. C cars, which we didn't really think would happen. Well ahead of Class D, the car's feeling good, we're in a rhythm, it's just about taking it round. A little bit of corrective one there again. Now at this point, the two Class C cars that are behind me have freed themselves up from each other and they're starting to put in some decent laps. So I can see they're closing me down. Now from my point of view, I'm not in a Class C race, I don't do anything silly. Maybe we can get on the second out of the car if we really pushed it, but I'm putting it at risk of risking a race victory that we're not even in Class C. So I can see they're starting to come back at me, but I'm trying to keep it calm, just keep putting it round, putting in good laps. When they catch up to us, we'll deal with it then, but let's go and do with the car, trying to stay ahead of cars which are quicker than us. What would be more helpful from your point of view is if I had a rear-facing camera and you can see what's going on behind and sort of pressure that we're coming under, so we'll get one of those installed for future races. Race outing was the laps were much more consistent and very few mistakes in the overall performance. A couple of laps, obviously, you know, you've run a little bit wide, maybe you missed the apex, but nothing material here, which was nice and encouraging. Fairly big moment there, had to put much more opposite lock on than we would have expected. Just a quick reaction though, gather it up and then get out of the corner without travelling with too much pace. Probably as a result of getting pressure from the drivers behind and trying to put a little bit too much throttle down, keeping ahead of them. Ultimately, it doesn't pay off when they start to really win. At this point in the race now we've got about a 7-second gap, so Jim Hart in the MX-5 behind us in Class D starting to catch us slightly. A little bit worrying, you know, no one wants to be going backwards, but it's nothing too major that we can't deal with, so it's just a case of keep going around and see what happens. But relatively stable gap, would have liked it to be opening up, but it was enough. Been a little more cautious around that hairpin next time round. Obviously we had a big moment last time, so bearing that in mind, being a bit more careful. Starting to get pressured. Here's the next Class C car coming through. You see me looking to the left there, making sure I wasn't going to cut across him or he wasn't going to be in the position he needs to be on the apex as I come through. Quite a quick little car, this one. As you can see, we can gather him off with the braking, so we're in a good position from performance-wise, but when he comes out the corner, he's just got the power to be able to put it down and pull away. We can't look at that. Ran a little bit wide there, probably a bit distracted by getting past. Not the cleanest set of laps, corners even. So now behind that Clio, this is where we find James coming back at us as well, so he's now directly behind us and we're going to start moving across the track trying to defend the position. Compromise the racing line a little bit, trying to force James around the outside and stop him from overtaking us. Now in the Trackday Trophy we have to do one pit stop in the middle of the race. That pit window opens up 15 minutes into the race to half an hour. So you'll see the car which has just overtaken us peels off to the left and hits. He's going to go and do his stop now. We're going to stay out for a few more laps though. People asked about how the cars run in the field and what the different classes mean. Essentially we've got 4 classes in this race. There's class B, C, D and E. The higher the class, the higher the power to weight ratio. So the class B cars are the fastest and the class E cars are the slowest. So we're in class D, so we're sort of lower to midfield. It's all about how much power the car has. So essentially the higher the class, the faster the car. what happens is all the cars race in the same race, so you've got one larger race, but essentially you've got 4 smaller races going on within a big race. So what you're looking for is a class victory, and to do as well as you can the overall results. So we can see James behind us now. We've got enough of a gap that we can stay on the racing line. Very shortly he's going to start putting on some pressure, and we're going to come off the line and start defending the position. Now just to put the speed and performance in context, this next car we're coming against, the Porsche 924, this is a Class D car, so this is one of our competitors. Let's see how we do against racing against our class. And now come up to lap this guy. Way deep on the brakes, loads of gain on the braking. Up the inside, a bit tentative on the throttle, make sure we've cleared him, and we're off and away, no problem. Next ahead of us we've got Adrian. Now Adrian's in a Class E MR2. Let's catch Adrian up and let's see what happens on this lap. So we've come round the field and we're now starting to catch the back markers and pass them. So these aren't cars we're racing with, these are cars we're now lapping. Always important to get around them nice and clean. Keep your eyes on Aiden in the distance as he goes into this hard left hand here. Just as he goes in, it doesn't brake, back end gets go. Oh, he's off around the track. Second guess, is he going to spit across the track? No, he's not. Good clear, back on the throttle. Now right behind me at this point, James is tracking down, he's seen the instance clear, where I'm going to deal with it. So he's right on it now. I'm trying to look over the corner, make sure I'm pushing him out wide, forcing him across. Which way is he going? I'm going to come back, there he is, and he's through, unfortunately. Carried a lot more speed there, we didn't do the best job blocking him, tried to come out to the left, but let's try and track him down again now. As you see, he's not really giving the apex as much trouble for the chicane, bit of oversteer there as we get on the throttle too hard. We're in a relatively good position to try and go after him. Now I've got, this is the fastest car I think in the field coming through. It's Class B or guest entry Porsche, which is coming up behind us, not too distant. Oh, Class C Mini even. This is the guy that we took off the start of the grid. You see me passing on the left hand side about 5 seconds in. Well, he's now reeled us back in, so about halfway through the race, and he's beginning to make his power show. But disappointed he's got the position back, but overjoyed that we managed to keep him behind for so long, especially in a much more powerful car. What's good about this, however, is I'm watching him reel James in, and again, as I said before, 2 cars going toe-to-toe on the track are also going to compromise their position, their line, and never go as fast. So whilst he's chasing down James, I've got an opportunity to concentrate on my laps and try and gain some of that ground back. So he goes up the inside here, James moved over to the outside to get the better line, gone round the corner side by side. How does it pan out? Unfortunately for James, the Mini's dragging him down to the chicane. It looks like he's going to get him. James makes it in the chicane ahead of him. You see again how we've gained on the 2 cars, slowing each other down, and we've done quite well through there, so we're a little bit closer to staying in contention. We're not out of fight yet. Here we come on the brakes. You see we've closed up considerably on both of those cars. You can see now through the infield section where there's less time to let the power come down, we're managing to keep much closer in contention with these guys. Mini's now starting to try a bit of pressure on through pit pad. Here they go through the double apex hairpin. Right up the back of him, lining him up. I think it's better off for the fast left-hander, but he's going to have a good run into the next hairpin. James has run wide, he's got the inside, and now he's clean into the next hairpin. So from my point of view, the opportunity to catch these guys has now been passed. They're not slowing each other down now. It means they'll pull away from James, so I'm not thinking I'm really going to gain much ground. But again, overall, we're about 6 seconds ahead of the rest of the Class D field. Race is going really well. We're about halfway through, time for a pit stop. Now, James lifts here much earlier than he needs to for the speed limit, so I get back on the gas, all the way up to the line, down at 37 miles an hour. Could have been a bit more aggressive there. So this is the controversial part of the race. Now we have to stop for 2 minutes, but as a single driver, when I get out of the car, we're meant to close the door. And we don't. But if you look at the car up front, which is James's car, his ball is wide open, and if you keep your eyes on it, you'll notice that that doesn't get closed either. Anyway, it took the marshals till the end of the race and 2 laps to go to notify us that we had a drive-through penalty, by which time we weren't sure if we could do it without finishing the race. So we didn't take the drive-through penalty. We finished the race, but we had that outstanding. So we got given a 30-second penalty for not closing the door, even though it didn't give us any advantage on the track or give us any time against our competitors. So you see Des is in the car right now, Mike's on the right hand side, they're just helping me get bolted back in again. Now we came into the pit stop just behind James. Now I'm quite keen to get out of the pits ahead of him if we can. So I'm really keen to listen to Mike's countdown and go as early as possible, gun it as hard as we can up to 36 miles an hour, but not exceed the pit limit. With a bit of luck we'll get out ahead of him. We're off. Little jump on James, he comes out right behind us. He's on my tail now, but this is great. We've got the track position back, we gained it in the pits. Good result. Back up to speed as quick as you can, so hard on it. So we're having to cover James off there a bit on the right hand side, making sure just to try and squeeze us out by going the inside of the corner and running wide. That's what took a little bit longer to come back on this racing line. time there. James is right behind us. We're going to come over to the right hand side, try and block him off. He's accelerated up. He's now got the space on the track. We're not going to squeeze him anything silly. He comes through, he's got the position back. There's that Class B Porsche, guest entry, quite a quick 968 there. We're back up with James again, let's give it another go. We're not over yet. Now at this point, this is going to be one of the most exciting parts of the race, because me and James are going to have a bit of fun over the next couple of laps. And it's great to mix it up with somebody else on track, actually practicing a bit of racecraft. Again, we're catching onto the braking, get on the throttle a little bit early there, and nice and close. But again, we haven't quite got the power to see it through. We're in a good position. James has run quite wide there, we've got a better line, we're closing up again. Again, he's run wide and missing the apex there, we've got a better line, he's having to compromise his entry to the next corner. Misses the apex there. He's going to run wide into the left, but he wants to be on the right. Bit of pressure on him here. Nice and tight. Better acceleration right at the back of him. And we just want to go hard on it into this next corner and see what happens. As you can see, we're gaining through the centre of the corner. As it comes to the exit, the power tells, he falls away. Pulls away down the straight again. However, we get in the braking zone, through the chicane, we're getting a little bit of that time back again. So we know he's going to pull us away on the straight, but we know we're going to catch him the brakes, so it's all about that first corner again. How much time can we get in the brakes now? Are we going to be close enough to have a go around that first corner? Million miles away. Let's see what happens. Bit too much throttle there. Back end's come round, it's correct for that, but we're still in it. Only a couple of car lengths behind. James has gone back for that first corner. He's kept it on the line. Again, we're tight here. He's running quite wide. Try and stay as hard on the throttle as we can, put as much pressure on. Nice and tight through here, he's run left again. On the back, bit of pressure, and he runs wide. Fantastic, we go straight through. And we're back in front again. This is a lot of fun. Now unfortunately, he came right back on the track behind us. I thought he might lose a little bit of time getting back on there, but he didn't. So he's directly behind us now on track, coming back at us. By this time after the pit stops, we're now 40 seconds ahead of the next Class D car. So clearly they didn't get through their pit stops as quickly as we did, or they had some troubles. But in terms of a class victory, we are very comfortable at this point, so now we're just racing for fun. Just check James doesn't come to the inside, nothing silly. We've got space, back on it. The right hand side, he's right behind us, then we've lost the last minute, come back in again, we've missed the apex there. He's right behind us here now. on, we'll start to lose the best of the grip, so we've got to be careful and manage that. Again, we're bashing away at this lap. James is right behind us all the time. So into the last hairpin on the lap. Not doing particularly well, getting good traction out of there. Here comes James up the inside, he's showing his power. We're going to go through this chicane side by side. I wish you could see that. He is literally next door to my car and we've gone through that two abreast. It was fantastic. Quite a good moment. He got a much better exit from the chicane, from the hairpin. Used the power of his car, pulled alongside of the inside of the chicane. I wasn't ready to give it up and pull it behind him, so we went through it toe to toe and side by side. We got through it nice and cleanly, gave each other space, which was good fun. But coming out of the hairpin again, we just couldn't keep up. But we're still on the back of him, we're still having a go. Have another try at the inside here. We're there, but we lose under acceleration. So we've got another couple of back markers here we're going to pass. This represents an opportunity. The back marker can slow down your lap. If I can get through it cleaner than James can, then maybe I can take him. Unfortunately, as it's fallen, it turned in James's favour. He was able to get up the inside of the next corner in a good position. I had to go around the outside of the final exit of the chicane. Hasn't done me any favours, but didn't get any opportunities either. At this point, when we're going around the lap, we know that we're 40 seconds ahead in Class D. We've got a solid victory. At this point, I think we're running about 9th overall in the field, which is a really great result. What we're finding now is that the tyres in the car are starting to be a bit more unpredictable and they're offering less grip. So if we're going to start chasing lap times and starting to go and mix it with the Class Cs when there's nothing to gain, there is a bit of risk involved in that. So just conscious of that now, enjoying the race, glad to be on the circuit, but don't want to do anything silly and throw it away. I think lap time wise we're putting in about 1:51s at the moment, which is a couple of seconds slower than where we can be. Now this is another Class D car. These are the guys that finished second behind me at Alton Park. Steve and Ian. Gain on them considerably, but you can see from the speed differential here, I knew they had a problem. There was no way that car was that slow, and they retired the car from the race about 3 laps before the end. Don't know what the problem was, but that's a shame for them because we were having some good fun on track last time at Alton, so hopefully they're going to have to next round. is getting towards the last couple of laps. We've got it's a Class B Golf in front of us, and we've got a Class D Saxo that we're tracking down as well to lap. We know we haven't got long to go, so it is just about securing the result here. So I've backed the car up a little bit more, another second or so, so we're into the 153s, just bringing it round. At this point, quite tired, very sweaty. It's been a hot day. We've been locked up in that car, baking away in all our fireproofs, overalls and helmets, and we'll be glad to get across the line and secure the result. Porsche getting Class D, not the quickest car in the world, but turn around and lap them again. We're now closing on the Golf and Saxo. So we're not racing these guys, but if we can have a bit of fun, then why not? Now at the same time as it's good to tangle on the track, we don't want to get mixed up in a battle of their habit and get taken out by some mistake. So I'm mindful of that fact, not trying to risk anything. If there's an opportunity we can take, we'll grab it, but let's not do anything silly. So try and get up close, tight through the chicane. This is the last corner now. We're going to head over the start-finish line to finish the race. Try and get back on the gas a bit early, a bit of oversteer. If we can drag them out of the line, great. It's not going to happen this occasion, but here we go. Class victory, crossing the line. Very, very happy with that. Great result. As you can tell, I'm very happy. So that was my next race outing at Rockingham. So that's 2 victories now. First at Alton and second at Rockingham here. The only way we can go is down. Hopefully next time out at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit we'll get another good running, but I hope you enjoyed the race, and I can tell you it was fantastic.